Disabilities, brain damage, seizures, even death. Some of the effects that lead poisoning can have on growing children. News 8's Scott McDonald takes a closer look at making your home safe.
It is a startling statistic. Last year in New Haven, 94 kids had elevated lead blood levels in New Haven. So 1 year, almost 100 kids with unsafe levels of lead in their bloodstream. This graph represents all those kids. But there's new technology and new funding now available to make sure each place our kids enter is now safe. Lead, and more lead.
And the reading is greater than 9.9, which is the highest reading that this machine can read.
This historic home in New Haven was built in the late 1800s. It's loaded with lead paint. This high-tech sensor lets Glenda Wolf, a lead poisoning inspector with the city, chart the areas that need lead abatement or cleanup.
All the walls, all the baseboards, if there's a chair, any of these building components.
As is, it's a health hazard, especially for kids.
Chipping and flaking paint, yep.
And a child could easily put this in their mouth.
And the thing about lead paint is that it's sweet, so if they, happen to eat it, they might like it because it's sweet.
Some, like Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, believe the Northeast has a lead paint crisis on its hands.
That we are at greater risk. Our kids are at greater risk.
DeLauro, who lives in the Elm City, touts New Haven for leading the way in the effort to rid homes of lead paint.
They've got a much better standard than even the state.
Eligible property owners in New Haven could get up to $9,000 per unit to clean up lead paint hazards. It's made possible by $3.2 million in funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Over 1,300 lead abatements have been done by the health department, not one of them at an expense to the homeowner.
1978, we said no more lead-based paint. But if you take a look at the housing stock in the city of New Haven, over 80% of it is before 1978. So we have an older housing stock, so that we have to be very conscious of this issue of lead poisoning. And we know the effects of lead poisoning, particularly with youngsters.
Undeniable links between lead paint and frightening health problems in kids.
From IQ reduction to dysfunction of personality to physiological manifestations down the road. It's a lifelong disease, and it's incurable.
And most definitely preventable. Scott McDonald, News 8.